Chapter 136, Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. A sign and opportunity appeared on his first step into Jiangnan. Sign in successful. Received Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. A portrait appeared in Lin Zhufeng's hand. Then, every information regarding the Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait appeared in his mind. This is actually a magic treasure portrait. Naturally born in the Jiangnan area at that. Lin Zhufeng exclaimed in surprise. The portrait in his hand looked elegant. He slowly opened it. Inside was the rich, beautiful, poetic, and picturesque scenery of Jiangnan. There were small bridges with flowing water and families as far as the eye could see. But upon closer inspection, there were countless imperceptible black spots hidden in this painting. One black dot represented a single ghost or evil spirit. The Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait is a treasure naturally born in the Jiangnan area. Since I've received this portrait as a reward for signing in, does this mean that the land of Jiangnan wants me to help in removing these ghosts from the Jiangnan area? Lin Zhufeng murmured. The Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait was a gift from the land of Jiangnan. The land here is sentient. It gave me this powerful magic treasure that can suppress ghosts and refine them into energy. Once I've exterminated the ghosts in the Jiangnan area, this magic treasure will absorb a huge amount of ghost energy and turn into an immortal artifact. Lin Zhufeng read through all the information he received and was surprised by the discovery. He originally thought that it was simply just a painting, but who would have thought that it was a magic treasure? But just as he thought that being a magic treasure was its limit, it turned out that it could be an immortal artifact. Although it didn't have the might of an immortal artifact yet, nor was it as terrifying as a real immortal artifact, as long as Lin Zhufeng exterminated the evil ghosts and spirits in the Jiangnan area, he would be able to make up for what this magic treasure lacked. The land of Jiangnan is tempting me. Lin Zhufeng laughed. If this is your attempt in tempting me, I just want to say, you've succeeded. Lin Zhufeng decisively put away the Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. After all, he had a kind heart. Moreover, the crucial question was, who possibly could reject an immortal artifact? Lin Zhufeng gradually calmed down. After obtaining the Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait, he finally understood why the moment he stepped into the Jiangnan area, the system immediately alerted him that he could sign in. The process behind it was simple. In short, the land of Jiangnan itself gave Lin Zhufeng an immortal artifact to ask for his help in eliminating the ghosts and evil spirits in Jiangnan. In the beginning, Lin Zhufeng was puzzled as to why there was a choice to sign in when he had just stepped into the Jiangnan area. He hadn't arrived in a special place yet, he had just stepped foot into its borders, yet he could already sign in. In the past, when he stepped onto the plains and the desert lands, he never received a notification to sign in. Why was there a notification immediately upon reaching Jiangnan? It seems that the population of ghosts and evil spirits in the Jiangnan area has already reached unprecedented levels, and that's why the land of Jiangnan is so desperate. Lin Zhufeng started to feel a sense of urgency upon realizing this. Emperor depleted for him to visit the Jiangnan area. He also said that the situation in the Jiangnan area was already to the point that it could no longer be delayed nor ignored. But despite this, Lin Zhufeng had never expected to receive an incomplete immortal artifact as a welcome gift upon his arrival in the Jiangnan area. This Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait was obviously not born in this era. Lin Zhufeng observed carefully and was very certain of this theory of his. How many years had it been since the world started to recover its spiritual energy? The foundations of the forces in the Jiangnan area weren't that deep yet. Not to mention nurturing an immortal artifact, the resources in the Jiangnan area weren't even enough to satisfy the demon-slaying sword in Lin Zhufeng's hand. And this incomplete Jiangnan 100 Ghosts Portrait wasn't something that could be born in just tens of years. I'm even more curious about the Jiangnan area now. Lin Zhufeng's interest was piqued. Perhaps the changes in the Jiangnan area all started because of the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower's arrival. Lin Zhufeng's gaze was deep. Meow, why are you still standing here? The white cat asked curiously. She watched as Lin Zhufeng stood without moving nor speaking. A painting suddenly appeared in his hand, but he then put it away. Strange. Lin Zhufeng came back to his senses and said, "It's my first time in Jiangnan. Of course, I'm excited." But the white cat didn't understand why he was so excited. There didn't seem to be any scenery worthy of his attention around them. Lin Zhufeng didn't explain. He carried the white cat and advanced deeper into the Jiangnan area at a rapid pace. Jiangnan, spring rain, river. When the sun rose, the flowers on the river would always become redder than fire. When spring came, the river water turned as green as blue. Standing beside a big river in Jiangnan, Lin Jufeng looked at the green mountains on both sides of the river. Rain fell and landed on the water. Rings of circles spread out like the growth rings of a tree. This was Jiangnan Prefecture, the largest state in Jiangnan. There were tens of millions of people living here, and the lands of the 5 states were built close to the stunning sights of Jiangnan. The river rippled with green waves. A small boat was currently crossing the river. An old man was supporting the boat when he saw a young master, Lin Jufeng, standing close to the shore. Lin Jufeng was dressed in embroidered clothes and had an ethereal bearing, looking indescribably noble. "Young master, do you want to take a boat across the river?" The old man shouted with a thick Jiangnan accent. Lin Jufeng lowered his head and asked the white cat, "Do you want to take a boat?" The white cat meowed lazily. "Yes." Lin Jufeng waved for the boatman to come over. The boatman waved the paddle happily. The boat came slowly and leaned against the shore. Lin Jufeng boarded the boat and put the white cat down. "Young master, where are you going?" the boatman asked. "Just stroll around and follow the river. Anywhere is fine," Lin Jufeng said nonchalantly as he handed a handful of Yuha God Dynasty's silver to the boatman. The boatman agreed happily. He moved the boat and weaved through the misty rain. The boat wasn't moving fast. There were green mountains on both sides of the river, and it was also morning. The morning fog from the mountains filled the air and spread over the water. Together with the spring rain, the hazy beauty of the landscape painting came crashing into his face. Lin Jufeng and the white cat sat in the cabin of the boat. Both of them were more obedient than the other. Their eyes were filled with curiosity as they watched the scenery that belonged solely to Jiangnan. Misty rain Jiangnan, a hazy beauty. Those similar to Lin Jufeng and the white cat who had never seen such a scene before, it was extremely attractive. The old man who was rowing the boat wore a raincoat. He was not afraid of the rain as he asked with a smile. "Young master, is this your first time in Jiangnan?" "Yes." "How old are you?" Lin Jufeng asked with a smile. "I'm 69 this year. To be honest with you, young master, old folks my age are often already 6 feet under in the previous years. But thanks to the recovery of the world's spiritual energy, despite my age, I don't feel old. I feel healthy, my body has never been this great. In addition, the reigning emperor is wise and mighty. We are able to eat 3 meals a day until we're full, all thanks to his reforms and laws. I have to admit, the Yuha God dynasty had never enjoyed this much development compared to when it was still in the hands of the previous emperors." The boatman was quite talkative. "Young master, you look quite young. Are you still cultivating in a martial temple?" the boatman asked curiously. A strange expression appeared on Lin Jufeng's face. "Little brother, you're only 69 years old. I'm already more than 100 years old." Lin Jufeng muttered in his heart. But he didn't say anything. He just shook his head and smiled. "I'm not a student of any martial temple." "That's a pity. Young master is so young, you should have gone to a martial temple." The boatman sighed. In the eyes of ordinary people like them, being a student of a martial temple was the key to success. They considered it one of the best places to be in the world. Since its establishment 30 years ago, everyone in the world has come to know about martial temples. The martial temples dominated every other school out there, and it reigned supreme over those that aspired to be peerless cultivators. Emperor De even went around inviting powerhouses to be the teachers in the countless martial temples that he had established. In addition, he even invited the demons that Lin Jufeng had suppressed back then to come and teach the students. He also ordered a few powerhouses to search and plunder all sorts of secret manuals and techniques from ruins and other sects so that they could be shared with the students. More importantly, Emperor De also taught the students one thing: to love their country. His work had greatly increased the cohesion of the entire Yuha God dynasty. When Lin Jufeng heard the boatman's words, he echoed with a sigh. "It's a pity that the martial temples do not want me." The white cat rolled her eyes at Lin Jufeng. If Emperor De heard what he had just said, the latter would definitely be confused. Chapter 137, Dalan Temple. A small boat crossed the broad river. It went through the mist as its occupants admired the scene. Lin Jufeng, however, continued to chat with the old boatman. The old man was talkative. He had a thick Jiangnan accent and he spoke in its dialect mixed with the official language of the Yuha God dynasty. He sounded strange to Lin Jufeng, but the latter knew and understood that it was due to the dialect. Along the way, he told Lin Jufeng about the many geniuses in the martial temples. The geniuses nurtured by the martial temples had all made a breakthrough into the human god realm before the age of 30. What was more astounding was that the most talented one among them was already a general of the Yuha god dynasty despite the young age. The 2 recruitment sessions of the martial temples that happened every year had already become some sort of a festival. It was now considered to be one of the liveliest events in the world. The old man even said proudly, "Both of my grandsons are students of a martial temple. Although they are not that outstanding, I am already very satisfied with their results. Once they've graduated from the martial temple, I will ask them to go and serve the country for His Majesty, Emperor Da. I want them to punish the evil and spread good deeds." Lin Jufeng smiled and gave the old man a big thumbs up. "Old man, have you heard of the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower?" Lin Jufeng suddenly asked. The old man was taken aback. "Young master, why are you asking about those evil monks?" "Evil monks?" Lin Jufeng looked at the old man quizzically. "The 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower is that tall tower in the middle of the West Lake. The moment they appeared, they annexed both the Shaolin and Xuankang Temple. Moreover, over the years, many commoners who lived close to the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower have been saying that every night, there would be strange wailings inside the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower." The old man wore a solemn look. Lin Jufeng raised his brows. "What? Why would there be wailing?" Lin Jufeng asked curiously. "Who knows? But I heard that someone saw terrifying phantoms in the waters of the West Lake every night of the full moon. Some say that those ghastly figures are the fossils of archaic monsters, but they also seem to be extremely terrifying ghosts. Don't you think that it's strange for a Buddhist sect to have so many weird things right in their backyard?" The old man asked. "That is indeed quite strange." Lin Jufeng nodded in agreement. "That is why not many people have gone to the West Lake recently. I'll advise the same. If you can help it, don't visit that place often," the old man reminded Lin Jufeng. "All right, I'll keep that in mind." Lin Jufeng nodded seriously. Talking about the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower seemed to have greatly dampened the old man's mood. He focused on pushing the boat and steering it with the flow of the river. Lin Jufeng didn't say anything anymore. He closed his eyes and carefully observed the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait. The Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait was an immortal artifact, but its might had been greatly reduced. To recover its true power, the only way to do so was to complete the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait. That was why Lin Jufeng said that the Zhongnan area was luring him over. He couldn't resist the temptation. He wanted the immortal artifact. Thus, he started to study on how to complete the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait. There are so many black spots. And each of them is supposed to represent a ghost or an evil spirit. But it doesn't matter, they'll all die the same anyway, Lin Jufeng thought to himself. Everything was bound to be difficult at the very beginning. It wasn't easy to complete the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait either. The first step was to think carefully. After studying the portrait, Lin Jufeng finally placed his gaze on a Buddhist sect. It wasn't the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower, but the Dalan Temple. In the past, there were 3 Buddhist sects in the Zhongnan area. They were of the same lineage, but due to their differences in ideals, they became distant from each other. Shaolin Temple, Xuankang Temple, and Dalan Temple. Among them, Shaolin Temple and Xuankang Temple were the more well-known Buddhist sects. They had a lot of believers to the point that they could build their temples with donations alone. Shaolin Temple and Xuankang Temple seemed to be competing with each other back then as they speedily constructed their temples. Only the monks in Dalan Temple guarded their own territory and abided by their duties as monks, to live in peace and quiet. Both Shaolin and Xuankang Temple were very high profile in their actions. But at their peak, they were suppressed by Lin Jufeng's paintings without being able to resist at all. They declined until the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower appeared. The latter annexed both temples and they had completely lost their previous identities. The 2 once glorious Buddhist sacred lands were no more. On the other hand, the low-key Dalan Temple continued to persist. After observing the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait for a long time, Lin Jufeng finally decided on his first step in the Zhongnan area. He shall go to Dalan Temple. I still remember it. There's a demon's den in Dalan Temple, Lin Jufeng recalled. Decades ago, Miss Hong wanted to repay Lin Jufeng's kindness. She got Monk Qingyan from the Zhongnan area to come and look for Lin Jufeng. At that time, Monk Qingyan said that there was a demon's den in the back mountain of the Dalan Temple. The seniors of the Dalan Temple chose to construct a mountain gate there in order to suppress the demons in the demon's den. During the recovery of the world's spiritual energy, the Dalan Temple was on the verge of losing its control over the demon's den. The pack of demons back then had almost succeeded in causing chaos in Zhongnan. Fortunately, Miss Hong appeared at the critical moment. At that time, she suppressed the demon's den and set up a huge array to put an end to the struggle. When Miss Hong left, she casually gave Monk Qingyan a few pointers and he made a breakthrough into the human god realm with the help of the former's words. One thing led to another and Miss Hong ended up using her paper cranes to summon powerhouses that she ordered to look for the dethroned crown prince, Lin Jufeng. Lin Jufeng had long placed this part of his past in the deep recesses of his mind. If it weren't for the black spots, the ghosts, and evil spirits in the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts portrait, the Dalan Temple would have remained hidden in Lin Jufeng's mind. There are problems with both the Dalan Temple and the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Tower in the Zhongnan area, but the problem at the Dalan Temple should be easier to solve. This was the reason why Lin Jufeng chose the Dalan Temple. Of course, the demon's den there was also part of the reason. Lin Jufeng was curious if the demon's den at the Dalan Temple was the same as the demon's den beneath the cold palace. "Boatman, go to the Dalan Temple," Lin Jufeng said. The old man agreed. Following the river, the scenery along the way became better and better. When noon came, the morning fog dissipated. The thousands of miles of river water and its placid waves were laid bare. In the village by the shore, smoke curled up from the chimneys of the houses there. The chickens and dogs seemed to be playing with each other, and the aroma of good organic food seemed to be constantly in the air, reassuring the ordinary families living by the shore that they would never run out of food with the grace of nature. Both Lin Jufeng and the white cat observed the scene. The scene matched the scenery in Zhongnan. It was not dramatic at all. Instead, seeing the lives of the ordinary people made Lin Jufeng feel comfortable. Just looking at their smiles could cleanse one's soul. The old man constantly steered and controlled the boat along the river. It was only when they arrived close to a huge mountain filled with greenery in the late afternoon did the old man stop holding the boat paddle. "Young master, we've arrived at the closest pier to the Dalan Temple. Move along this pier. The Dalan Temple is still 100 miles away. The temple is very famous, but they only receive a limited number of believers every day. You might not be able to enter the Dalan Temple today," the old boatman kindly reminded. Lin Jufeng took out some silver and handed it over to the old boatman. "Thank you for your reminder, little brother." Lin Jufeng smiled lightly and turned around to leave. "What young master? What young man? I'm 40 years older than you." Lin Jufeng left coolly, leaving behind a dumbfounded old man supporting the boat. He was baffled by Lin Jufeng's parting words. Mount Daqing. Dalan Temple. In the past, this Buddhist sect of the Zhongnan region had always kept a low profile. Even now, it was still keeping a low profile. Even though both Shaolin and Xuankang Temple were no more, Dalan Temple still maintained its own leisurely pace. It still ignored the changes of the outside world. During this period of time, Dalan Temple announced that they would no longer receive any believers. They didn't explain why. The Dalan Temple didn't reveal anything to the public. Under such circumstances, Lin Jufeng still visited the temple on a boat. Chapter 138, Death Surrogate Puppet. Lin Jufeng stood in front of Mount Daqing and looked at the inconspicuous mountain. He suddenly remembered something about the Dalan Temple. He had never left Zhongnan, let alone visited the Dalan Temple. The information he recalled regarding the Dalan Temple was also what the boatman told Lin Jufeng on the boat. The Dalan Temple was located on Mount Daqing, but it was unlike Shaolin and Xuankang Temple, which placed a lot of emphasis on its exterior. Countless magnificent Buddha statues were built in those two sects, making their sects look very magnificent and awe-inspiring. The Dalan Temple had paid more attention to the inner workings of their sect. They dug out many caves in Mount Daqing, carving out thousands of Buddhist stories on the walls of those caves, one by one. Generations of the Dalan Temple's seniors had spent their days carving and painting. Countless cultivation techniques, countless divine powers, countless statues, Buddhist stories, and even end-of-epic paintings were all carved on these caves. On the surface, the Dalan Temple looked like an ordinary Buddhist sect. It wasn't even as beautiful as those small Buddhist sects. But only after entering the Dalan Temple could one truly see Buddha. They could then see the magnificent Buddhist scenery created by a group of low-key and pious monks. But now, the Dalan Temple had sealed off their mountain and didn't receive any believers. This wasn't a problem for Lin Jufeng. No one could stop him from entering. At the gate of the Dalan temple, Lin Jufeng walked in unimpeded. No one detected his presence. Walking into Dalan temple and on a small mountain path, all he saw was a simple Buddhist sect. It was cold and empty, there was nothing special about it. There weren't even many statues of Buddha, nor were there many monks. It looked empty and desolate. But when Lin Jufeng walked from the small mountain path to the depths of Mount Daqing, he passed through a tunnel. A brief period of darkness came, and a magnificent Buddhist world appeared before his eyes. The depths of Mount Daqing had been hollowed out. Bodhisattvas, arhats, and yakshas of the Buddhist sects were carved into the mountain. Some of them had kind looks and were pot-bellied, while some of them looked fiendish with green faces and sharp teeth. There were also more than a dozen murals that recorded the descent of Buddha. Beneath a Bodhi tree was a monk chanting scriptures. As he chanted and pondered about Buddhism, the wind and rain beat against him, a python guarded him. The scene of Buddha feeding a hungry bird with his flesh before finally becoming Buddha was also depicted on a mural. The depths of Mount Daqing were lit up by countless illumination stones. These statues and paintings looked lively as if they were alive. As Lin Jufeng walked inside, he couldn't help but sigh. A huge mountain had been hollowed out just like that. It was tens of thousands of feet high and there were countless caves that had exquisite Buddha statues carved into them. This was the hard work of generations of monks from the Dalan temple. It was rare to see monks in the outside world, but upon entering the depths of Mount Daqing, one could see monks busy in their painting, carving, and coloring. They seemed to be in a trance, for their movements were steady, skillful, and without waste, making the cold stone carvings seem alive. Each of these monks had chosen one thing to spend the rest of their life on. This was the case for the monks of the Dalan temple. Lin Jufeng observed them for a long time. He admired these monks. Thus, he didn't disturb them. Walking along the depths of the Dalan temple, Lin Jufeng soon arrived at the back mountain of the temple. The so-called front mountain was Mount Daqing. It was the Dalan temple's storefront. 90% of their monks were in the front mountain. The back mountain was an inconspicuous hill close to Mount Daqing. The small hill wasn't as tall and majestic as Mount Daqing. But the higher-ups of the Dalan temple all lived here to suppress something in the small hill. This so-called small hill was a million times more dangerous than Mount Daqing. Lin Jufeng entered the small hill and immediately saw a huge underground cave. It was so deep that no one could see where it ended. Endless black smoke seemed to be coming from it. Fortunately, there was a huge array formation above the hole in the ground. It flickered with an intense golden glow. There were 36 old monks sitting in 36 corners close to the cave entrance. These 36 old monks were the cornerstones of the Dalan temple. Each of them was at the grotto heaven realm, and most of them were in the middle or late stages. If they showed themselves to the world, they would definitely be considered a major force in today's world. But they remained unknown and nameless in the outside world. No one knew that there were so many hidden powerhouses in the Dalan temple. Rumble. Lin Jufeng stood at the edge of the small mountain. He watched as the huge underground cave trembled. An extremely terrifying demonic creature could be seen charging forward. Its boundless aura condensed into a skull that let out a sharp roar, wanting to destroy the seal. But the monks of Dalan temple weren't to be trifled with either. The 36 monks attacked at the same time. Their mellow Buddhist true chi gathered together as the terrifying phantom of Buddha coalesced behind them. Dong. The phantom of Buddha slowly pressed down with a palm. The powerful and terrifying aura directly suppressed the demonic creature in the underground cave to the point that it roared angrily. It looked ferocious and vicious, its pair of wolf-like eyes were filled with hatred. It didn't say a word, but the pressure it gave everyone was indescribable. "You guys won't be able to suppress us for so long." Staring at the monks of the Dalan temple, the demonic creature let out a cackle and slowly sank back down. The danger was temporarily alleviated. The 36 monks heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed. They were exhausted from the exertion just now. "Uncle Masters, you have worked hard. You've once again resolved the danger in the demon's den." A familiar monk appeared and said softly. Lin Jufeng recognized him. Monk Qingyan. He was different from when he met him in the cold palace back in the imperial capital. After decades, the young and handsome monk had aged considerably. Exhaustion could be seen on his face, but his aura remained vigorous. Supremacy realm. He broke through into the human god realm not long after Lin Jufeng. After all these years, he was now at the supremacy realm. Qingyan, the demonic creatures here are becoming stronger and stronger. Suppressing them is becoming increasingly difficult. An old monk couldn't help but speak up. That's right. The demonic creatures here have advanced by leaps and bounds in the past 30 years. Our rate of improvement is far inferior to them. If this continues, this seal can at most suppress them for only another 5 years. Qingyan, don't you know that Miss Hong? Can you ask her to come again? Exactly, that Miss Hong was the one that had set up this seal back then. Let's invite her over to reinforce it again. The old monks spoke one after another as they looked at monk Qingyan. The former young monk had now become the abbot of the Dalan temple and was in charge of everything in the Dalan temple. After hearing his uncle master's words, he smiled bitterly and replied, I haven't been able to contact Miss Hong for more than 10 years now. The old monks shook their heads in disappointment. Lin Jufeng couldn't help but look at monk Qingyan. Wasn't he close to Miss Hong back then? Miss Hong has been working very hard all these years. She has been suppressing all sorts of evil creatures everywhere. She's just a single person, it's bound for her to be overworked. I can't burden her any further. Monk Qingyan shook his head. Amongst the so-called members of the Heavenly Tao, only Miss Hong had awakened so far in this brand new era. How could she suppress the entire world on her own? Lin Jufeng slowly took a few steps forward. He wanted to take a look at the underground cave. How many demonic creatures were there underground? But when Lin Jufeng approached, a line of words appeared before his eyes. Do you want to sign in before a demon's den? Sign in, Lin Jufeng said without hesitation. Sign in successful. Received a death surrogate puppet. A wooden figurine appeared in Lin Jufeng's hand. The wooden figurine was exquisitely carved. The details on its body were perfect, but it had no face. The user of the death surrogate puppet will have their face reflected in the puppet's blank face. The explanation appeared in Lin Jufeng's mind. Its function was simple, the puppet could die for the user once. Lin Jufeng decisively put away the puppet, it was good stuff. Receiving the death surrogate puppet as a sign in reward was a pleasant surprise for Lin Jufeng. It was rare for him to receive something like this. This was because these types of items all had miraculous effects, and they were all heaven-defying. Hence, it was very difficult for him to receive something like this as a sign in reward. For example, the death surrogate puppet could die for someone once. This effect alone was heaven-defying. But it seemed to be useless for Lin Jufeng. He probably wouldn't be able to use it, but keeping it was still good. After signing in, Lin Jufeng began to size up the underground cave. The cave was hundreds of feet long and wide. It was huge, bottomless, and shrouded in darkness. Even with Lin Jufeng's eyes, he could only vaguely see some demonic creatures inside. It was no wonder that 36 Buddhist monks were needed to suppress the creatures in this place. If one wasn't a supreme powerhouse, it would be very difficult to suppress such a huge underground cave. Fortunately, the array formation that Miss Hong had set up back then was created by the members of the Heavenly Tao sect by combining the world's energies into the array formation. Its ingenuity made it so that it was still effective to this day. As Lin Jufeng was staring at the demon's den, a demonic creature was also staring at him. Their eyes met. The demonic creature's eyes were bloody, terrifying, and filled with killing intent. Lin Jufeng's eyes were indifferent, calm, and emotionless. At this moment, Lin Jufeng remembered an adage. When you stared into the abyss would stare back at you. Roar. All of a sudden, the demonic creature let out a loud roar and directly rushed forward, repeating its previous actions from earlier. The surging demonic energy it radiated coalesced into a skull. But it was obvious that it was slightly weaker than the previous skull earlier. This demonic creature was not the same demonic creature as before. Rumble. The demonic creature rushed forward once again, shocking the monks of the Dalan temple. The exhausted 36 old monks were dumbfounded. What's going on? Doesn't this only happen once every 7 days? We've just suppressed it, yet it's already charging at us again. Enough talk. Hurry up and suppress it. The old monks sat in their corners one by one. Ignoring their exhaustion, they executed their Buddhist divine abilities. But it seemed to be too late. The demonic creature was about to rush over. The old monks were apprehensive. They couldn't let the demonic creature rush up to them. If they didn't suppress it in time, it might directly rush to the seal. The seal was already unstable to begin with, it couldn't withstand that kind of impact anymore. If the demonic creature rushed at it a few more times, the seal would break. When that happened, no solution could be done anymore. Lin Jufeng looked at the anxious old monks and the ferocious-looking demonic creature that was about to rush up to the seal. He calmly stepped forward. Dong! A terrifying force rushed out from beneath Lin Jufeng's feet. The force passed through the seal and directly collided against the demonic creature. Boom! The demonic creature was directly vaporized. It didn't even manage to let out a scream. The quaking demon's den immediately became silent. The old monks who were busy mobilizing and gathering their true chi looked at each other in confusion. What happened? Why did the demonic creature disappear? The true chi that they had just mobilized, should they continue to gather them or not? They didn't know what to do. The 36 old monks were bewildered. But the onlooker, Monk Qingyan, had an inkling of what had just happened. He looked in Lin Jufeng's direction, his eyes were filled with shock. He had seen it clearly just now. Before his uncle masters could gather their energy together, a huge force came crashing down and directly vaporized the demonic creature. There was definitely someone else here. Monk Qingyan casually stated, "Uncle masters, you guys have worked hard today. Now that the underground cave has become quiet once again, you should hurry back to rest and recuperate. I will guard this place. If there are any problems, I will inform you all." The old monks looked at each other in confusion. But under the urging of Monk Qingyan, they soon left one by one. Lin Jufeng watched Monk Qingyan's every move without saying a word. He knew that Monk Qingyan had guessed that there was someone else around. Sure enough, after persuading the old monks to return, Monk Qingyan walked in. He cupped his fist solemnly and stated, "Monk Qingyan of Dalan Temple greets the senior. Senior, please show yourself." Lin Jufeng replied faintly, "Are you sure that you want to see me?" Back then, Monk Qingyan was quite frightened by Lin Jufeng. When Miss Hong asked him to deliver all sorts of books to him later on, he only dared to place them in front of the cold palace's gates before leaving in a hurry. Did Monk Qingyan become bolder after all these years? "Senior, please show yourself," replied Monk Qingyan firmly. Lin Jufeng dispersed the veil of the great Tao and no longer concealed his figure. Qingyan's body visibly stiffened. He recalled his determination just now and felt ashamed. Was it too late for regrets? The biggest shadow of Monk Qingyan's life was when he was suppressed by Lin Jufeng in the cold palace back in the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty. The scene was still vivid in his mind. Despite already being a supremacy realm expert, Monk Qingyan still found the scene of him being suppressed by Lin Jufeng as terrifying. It was his scariest encounter with someone else to date. Because at that time, he really had no ability to fight back against Lin Jufeng. He was just like an ant facing a god high up in the sky. That kind of fear had been engraved in Monk Qingyan's heart. Monk Qingyan looked at Lin Jufeng. He squeezed out an awkward smile and said, "Greetings, senior." Especially Lin Jufeng's face, which hadn't changed much in decades. His aura, which had become even more unfathomable, also made Monk Qingyan uneasy. He worked hard and eventually arrived at the Supremacy Realm. After ascending to the Supremacy Realm, Monk Qingyan started to think that he was already a powerhouse. But despite all of that, he still couldn't see through Lin Jufeng. The Lin Jufeng in front of him was like an immortal that had descended unto the mortal realm. He was peerless and unrivaled. Just at what realm was this terrifying senior at? "It's been decades since we last met. Do you still remember me?" Lin Jufeng teased. Qingyan was ashamed. He truly wanted to forget Lin Jufeng. But how could he forget Lin Jufeng? The latter had already become a shadow in his life, an inner demon to be precise. "Senior, what brought you here?" Monk Qingyan hurriedly changed the subject. Lin Jufeng pointed at the demon's den. It was obvious. "How old is this thing?" Lin Jufeng asked. Seeing Lin Jufeng's calm expression, the anxiety in Monk Qingyan's heart lessened. He replied in a low voice, "It has been 1,000 years since our Dalan temple discovered it. We found out its existence in the previous era. When the ancestors of the Dalan temple discovered it, the seal was already very weak. In order to protect the common people, we built the Dalan temple here. Furthermore, the eminent monks of the past generations have tried their best to maintain the stability of the seal. But unfortunately, a few decades ago, the recovery of the world's spiritual energy started and the seal was broken. When the demonic creatures emerged, they were about to wreak havoc in the Jiangnan area. But they were stopped by Miss Hong, who appeared at that time and suppressed the demonic creatures. She then set up a great sealing array which lasted until now." Monk Qingyan explained. How many demonic creatures are there underground? Lin Jufeng asked. I didn't count them in detail, but according to the statistics from the past 1,000 years, there should be around 1,000 of them. Monk Qingyan said with uncertainty. Basically, there were a lot of them. If these 1,000 demonic creatures broke out from the seal, the common people of the world will definitely suffer, said Monk Qingyan with a sigh. Lin Jufeng nodded. Monk Qingyan was right. The demon's den that he suppressed in the cold palace was filled with beastly demons, but they were clear-headed. Most of those beastly demons weren't existences that would kill wantonly. But the demonic creatures here were different. Lin Jufeng had seen their bloodthirsty looks just now and he knew at one glance that they were up to no good. Monk Qingyan looked at Lin Jufeng meaningfully. He knew that Lin Jufeng was very powerful. He also knew that Lin Jufeng was the guardian deity of the Yuha god dynasty and had the responsibility to protect the people of the dynasty. Hence, he directed a meaningful gaze at Lin Jufeng. Without blinking. His thoughts were written all over his face. Lin Jufeng shivered under his gaze. Although there were traces of age on him, Qingyan was still a handsome and charming monk. And he stared at Lin Jufeng without blinking. What's more, his expression looked wronged and aggrieved. He was giving off a vibe similar to that of a young lady in need. Lin Jufeng was speechless. Lin Jufeng knew what Monk Qingyan was thinking. He just wanted Lin Jufeng to deal with this underground cave, right? Why was there a need to look at him in such a disgusting way? Meow. The white cat had been watching silently all this while. But now, she let out a shriek and stared angrily at Monk Qingyan. The cat felt that her territory was being invaded. Monk Qingyan retreated awkwardly and said, "Senior, may I invite you to take action and get rid of this demon's den?" "No problem." Lin Jufeng agreed directly. Monk Qingyan was stunned. He didn't expect Lin Jufeng to agree so readily. "Senior, don't you need to consider it first?" Monk Qingyan asked. "There's no need to think about it. Your Dalan temple discovered this demon's den and suppressed it for more than 1,000 years. Your temple has contributed greatly to the dynasty. I naturally won't decline. Even if not for you guys, for the people of Zhongnan, I will still take action," Lin Jufeng said. He looked at the bottomless pit with a probing gaze. He wanted to see how many active demonic creatures were inside the cave. After hearing Lin Jufeng's words, the excited Monk Qingyan asked, "Senior, how do you plan to deal with the demonic creatures in this underground cave? Should we continue to reinforce the seal? This way, the seal can persist for another few decades." Monk Qingyan suggested. "Why should we continue to do something like drinking poison to quench our thirst?" Lin Jufeng countered. Monk Qingyan asked curiously, "Why is this drinking poison to quench our thirst? The Dalan temple did the same thing back then. Won't they become stronger if you continued to seal them? Aren't these demonic creatures stronger than they were 30 years ago? If we continued to seal them, wouldn't we be letting them quietly become stronger inside? But you won't know this. You're thinking right now that everything will be fine, but when the time comes, they will explode out with their full power and we won't be able to stop them anymore," Lin Jufeng said in a matter-of-factly way. These words made Qingyan feel ashamed, but at the same time, he felt helpless. "I don't want to do this either, but there are at least 1,000 demonic creatures here. If we don't reinforce the seal, what should we do?" Lin Jufeng stretched out his hand and pointed. Then, he said coldly, "Naturally, the only way is to kill them." "Kill them?" Monk Qingyan looked at Lin Jufeng, dumbfounded. There are 1,000 demonic creatures there, and they are powerhouses. If it wasn't for this heavenly Dao sealing array, our Dalan temple would have already been destroyed by them. How were they supposed to kill these demonic creatures? Lin Jufeng looked at Monk Qingyan calmly and asked, "These so-called 1,000 demonic creatures that you've mentioned. Are they really powerful?" Monk Qingyan was about to say that they were very powerful, but he quickly shook his head after taking a look at Lin Jufeng. "Of course, they aren't as powerful as you." "Since they aren't as powerful as me, I can kill them then," Lin Jufeng replied. "It's not just one or two demonic creatures though. There are at least 1,000 demonic creatures there. An army of ants can even kill an elephant," Monk Qingyan explained. "Even if there are 5,000 demonic creatures in there, they are still lambs waiting to be slaughtered. There's no need for you to worry about them. If you don't agree to kill them, then you can handle the demonic creatures yourself." "I won't help anymore," Lin Jufeng said lightly. Monk Qingyan's expression turned vicious as he shouted, "Kill them. They deserve death. I support you in killing these demonic creatures, senior. The Buddhist sects are particular about not killing, But if killing a demonic creature can save tens of thousands of people, I will do it. Let alone killing these demonic creatures. I will be the first to support you, Senior. I will do whatever Senior says. Monk Qingyan's expression changed in an instant. Right now, he was 100% supportive of Lin Jufeng. As for him handling the demon's den on his own, he was unwilling to do such a thing. Since Lin Jufeng said that he wanted to kill the demonic creatures in the underground cave, Monk Qingyan would just do as Lin Jufeng said. After all, even if the sky fell, there would be taller people to hold and support the sky for the weaker ones down below. Lin Jufeng looked at Monk Qingyan and smiled. The latter's heart jumped. Senior, since you said that you want to kill them, how are you going to do it? Monk Qingyan hurriedly asked. I'll kill them directly. Just remove the seal and let them come out. Let's kill them all, Lin Jufeng replied casually. Isn't that too dangerous? Monk Qingyan murmured. Do you have a better solution? Lin Jufeng squinted at him. No, I will listen to Senior. Then, shall I undo the seal now? Monk Qingyan immediately shook his head and replied decisively. Guard the entrance for me. Don't let anyone in. I will open the seal now. Lin Jufeng instructed Monk Qingyan. Monk Qingyan was very obedient. He immediately guarded the entrance and raised his guard. He positioned himself in a way that he could easily slip away if something went wrong. Lin Jufeng ignored him and looked at the heavenly Dao array that Miss Hong had set up. His eyes glistened as he looked at the array. There's nothing special about this array, except that its connection to the heavenly Dao is pretty good. As expected of a member of the heavenly Dao sect, its affinity with the heavenly Dao is extraordinary. Lin Jufeng muttered calmly as he analyzed the structure of the array. If the affinity to the heavenly Dao of an ordinary person was 1, then, the affinity to the heavenly Dao of the people from the heavenly Dao sect was 10. Or maybe even higher. But Lin Jufeng wasn't envious. Those with high affinity and those who were members of the heavenly Dao sect were indeed blessed with ample benefits and opportunities, but it also meant that they had a responsibility to shoulder. For example, Miss Hong suppressed the experts of the previous era time and time again, as she did her best to delay their return to the world. This was the responsibility of the people from the heavenly Dao sect. She couldn't escape this responsibility. Hence, Lin Jufeng wasn't envious of her. After observing for a while, Lin Jufeng directly stomped his foot. Boom! The seal instantly exploded. Lin Jufeng used brute force to crush the seal. The huge impact was directly carried by him into the depths of the demon's den. Dong dong dong. A huge explosion happened in the underground cave. Sonic waves spread out and shook the ground. The demonic creatures in the underground cave woke up one by one. They looked up and saw that the seal had disappeared. Roar, roar, roar. Roars that shook the sky reverberated as they rushed out of the cave. The vibrations spread across the entire Dalan temple. The monks of Dalan temple were petrified. They all rushed over. All of you, stay where you are. There's no need for you to come over. I've hired an expert to handle this, don't get involved. Monk Qingyan roared, not letting them come over to disturb Lin Jufeng. Fortunately, the monks of Dalan temple were obedient. They stopped and watched nervously. As for the demonic creatures in the demon's den, they rushed up rapidly, brandishing their fangs and claws. They were in all sorts of strange shapes, looking aggressive and terrifying. When their auras overlapped, even Lin Jufeng's aura seemed insignificant. But Lin Jufeng didn't fight with them. He took a step back and took out something. Zhongnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. Lin Jufeng injected all of his true qi into the painting and activated the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. Schwash. A painting unfurled, blocking the entrance of the demon's den. The terrifying demonic creatures rushed forward one after another, only to crash against the Zhongnan 100 Ghosts Portrait. The Zhongnan 100 Ghosts Portrait itself was an immortal artifact. Thus, it was extremely powerful. Although it lacked a portion of its power, with Lin Jufeng's help, it was able to capture the demonic creatures and instantly use the energy inside the portrait to kill them in an instant.